Welcome back, Congresswoman, and always great to see you and to have you on the show, particularly at this time. Give us your sense of what the Republican conference is doing now. Secret meetings, secret votes. Jim Jordan, 200 votes, this close to being Speaker. And then knifed in the back. A great American betrayed. Your thoughts about it all?
First of all, Lou, thank you for letting me come on with you. I always enjoy our conversations. I want your speakers to know that I supported Jim Jordan wholeheartedly. I think that he would have been a phenomenal speaker, and he was the right man at this point in time. I've worked with him on Judiciary and the Weaponization Committee. I've known him for a couple of years. I have great respect for him, and I'm extremely disappointed as to what happened. I also was able to go home to Wyoming this weekend for about 24 hours was all, but I at least got on the ground and was able to talk to the folks in Wyoming. And I think I, like so many people, are hearing about the frustration that people have with the Republicans in Congress right now. And I'm going to push back on that just a little bit because I have somewhat of a different perspective. We're in this situation not because of the Republican conference, but because a very small number of Republicans joined with the Democrats and basically instituted a coup against our Speaker, Kevin McCarthy. So keep in mind, it was eight Republicans, which is 4% of our conference, and 100% of the Democrats that took out the Speaker of the House of Representatives. So I'm not going to put the blame for this on the Republicans. As far as where we are now we need to move forward. And I will tell you that I think part of the reason that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats did what they did is because we were getting some extremely effective legislation passed through the House. Just three of them I'll talk about: H.R. 1, H.R. 2, and H.R. 5. H.R. 1, energy security. Energy security. H.R. 2, border security. H.R. 5, Parents' Bill of Rights. The thing is, we got three of those three bills through the Republican conference, not only with votes from Harriet Hageman from Wyoming, a strong conservative, but your more moderate members from New York. We all came together and voted on those bills because they were good conservative policy for the American public. So right now, we're dealing with the situation where we need to pick a speaker. I remain optimistic that over the next couple of days, we will be able to do that. But this situation definitely threw us into disarray, which is exactly what the Democrats wanted to do.
Well, I don't think anyone could argue with the math, if you will. The history is somewhat, I think more difficult, and that is Kevin McCarthy was not keeping promises in terms of the debt ceiling. He was not moving as the conference wanted. Much of the conference, I can't say the majority of the conference, but much of the conference wanted in appropriations, separate bills, single subject, and really honoring his commitment to the independence of the chairman and the democratization, if you will, for amendments. It's, better than me what all was involved. So there were some atmospherics for which he was indeed, I think at least, and this is where we can keep arguing about, but I think he had set the tone that ultimately led to this, gave an opportunity. It'll be interesting to see how history writes it, and I suspect it'll be very close to your analysis. Let's turn to, though, what this process is right now, and that is what's followed is after 3 rounds, Jim Jordan gets a knife in the back. More than 100 people in the conference who, ostensibly, many of whom at least, had voted for Jim Jordan, suddenly in private. The second most popular man in the Republican Party is, when it's a public vote, he's got 200 votes and should have had all of them, as far as I'm concerned. They go to the private, they go to a secret vote, and suddenly he can only muster 86 votes. I mean, something's rotten in that. And I think that the conference has to, I think the conference has really set the leadership, at least of the conference, has set a tone that the American people are really not pleased with, because this looks swampy as it gets.
Lou, I don't disagree with you. And I was very surprised at what happened on Friday when that took place. I didn't expect it. Call me naive. Call me someone who actually believes that you're going to keep your word in terms of what you say with supporting somebody and supporting them for the right reasons. Keep in mind that the people who were supporting Jim Jordan came out and did so because he is the leader of the modern conservative movement. He is the face of that. He has been the fighter. He's been the guy in the ring. He's been the one who's been standing on the wall, fighting the issues that are important to so many of us in the conservative movement. So I was surprised by that. Well, I'll tell you what will happen now is we have an opportunity for the candidates to give us a presentation, and they will be short, I think maybe 5-minute discussions as to why they believe that they ought to be speaker. Now, that's not all the information we're getting, and you're probably seeing some of the materials as well. They're sending out letters. They're sending out information about their background, what they're doing, what their vision is. I think we have some excellent candidates. That's the thing, is that we have an extremely deep bench in the Republican Party in the United States House of Representatives. So I'm very confident that we're going to get somebody in place that is really good. But one of the problems you have with Republicans is the fact that we do not all dance to the same drummer. The Democrats are able to get their conference to all row in the exact same direction because they're much more lemming-like than we are. That's one of the big differences between Republicans and Democrats. We're independent. We're free thinkers. We do not allow someone just to dictate what we have to do. And so this has been a kind of a painful situation. Again, I think we're going to get back on track. There are some folks, I'm not going to say exactly who I think I might be supporting. I haven't even made that decision yet. I am keeping my powder dry until we have the forum this evening. I will make a decision and I will publicly support that person. And as we come to the floor, I am going to support the Republican candidate who can get 217 votes because we need to get back to governing.
Unity is important and coming together as a conference. But given the circumstances, why in the world would not someone in the conference say, bring back Jim Jordan, because what we've done is dirty, and it is absolutely a travesty. There's no rolling back. Secret vote, secret conference meetings, and then proceed with a secret conference for new nominees, and then a vote, and then is the loyalty oath, is that in place? Will everybody vote for whoever it is, no matter what?
I don't know that people are going to step up and do loyalty oaths. Again, I think that that's kind of contrary. Our loyalty is to our Constitution, and that's the oath that I took. So I think that there are some of us that are kind of leery of those kinds of things. I don't tend to sign oaths. I don't think that's the way to go. I understand what you're saying about Jim Jordan. And one of my concerns is that we've done some real damage to relationships in this conference. I think the next speaker is going to have to find a way to bring all of us back together so that we can move forward with what is really our agenda, which is blocking the radical Biden agenda, close our borders, address the inflation, all the things that are important to the American public. We need to get back to work.
Absolutely. And we're going to take a quick pause here. We're talking with Congresswoman Harriet Hageman. We're talking politics. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back now with Congresswoman Hageman, and I want to turn, as a member of the Judiciary Committee, you work with Jim Jordan. He chairs the Judiciary Committee. How would you feel if you were in his position? I know this is a strange question, but I have to ask it of you. How would you feel if you were in his position? Because this is really a dirty deal on the part of a handful of very powerful congressmen. But nonetheless, this is swamp stuff, as I said. This is snake stuff.
It is, and I've even used that terminology, Lou. When somebody talked to me about what it is that I'm going to do over the next couple of days, I said, I'm going to keep my cards kind of close to my vest because I'm feeling a bit snake bit right now, and I am. I will say that what happened on Friday evening with Jim Jordan when he got up and spoke after the decision was made to no longer have him as our speaker designate, my respect for him increased twofold, threefold, fivefold. The speech that he gave and the statements that he made to all of us was that first step to bring this conference back together and focus all of us on the important issues at hand. He said, I'm very happy to go back to what I was doing. I enjoy being the chairman of the Judiciary Committee and working and doing what we're doing, which is to expose what's been going on with the FBI and the Department of Justice Justice and the FTC and the with Secretary Mayorkas and the Biden crime family, again, to use that terminology. He said, I'm happy to go back and do that. And that's one of the things that Jim Jordan has been so phenomenal about. He is an asset to the United States of America and to the Republican Congress, like very few have been. He is going to go down in history as one of the greats. I know that he knows that just from the standpoint of the well wishes that have been sent out to him and how people have responded to him. So what I'll say is he did a phenomenal job of beginning the process of bringing us back together. I'm going to work hard with him on that Judiciary Committee to hold people accountable for the things that have been going on in this country. And I know that Jim Jordan is going to continue to lead us because he is a leader.
No question whatsoever about who he is and his integrity. And it's remarkable that the conference would turn their back on him, given everything that you've just said about him, which so many of us share. I just don't know how we go from Jordan to an Emmer, a Hearn, whomever it would be, because there are two people in the conference who have significantly higher in the list of 9 who have significantly high ratings from Liberty ratings. It's just, I just don't know how to get past the stench of this thing. Can you? And I know that we all want to, but I'm having a heck of a time. And because you know what? I know the listeners of this podcast, the listeners on my radio show, they are not happy, to put it straightforwardly. And I think the Republican Party has taken one step too far in turning their backs on the voters that they represent.
So, Lou, you've been around for a long time. And I think that you saw something in this that surprised even you. And I haven't been around as long, and it surprised me. But what I will say is, it isn't the Republican Party that did this. It's a very small number of people who did this. The vast majority of the Republicans in our conference, again, are focused on fixing the problems of this country and of moving forward. And so while this entire process was messy and didn't look very good from the outside, this is the first time that anything like this has ever happened in the history of this country. I keep saying I'm going to get a T-shirt that says I'm tired of making history. After what we've been through this year,
that's very good.
For the speaker and other things, we have dealt with, and we are dealing with something that was kind of, what do we do now? Because nobody knew. And so I'm going to defend the folks a little bit by just simply saying we're going to have to move on because the American people need us to move on. Our world is on fire. What has happened in Israel is absolutely beyond the pale. And like your listeners, I wake up in the middle of the night every single night since that happened and pray for it and think about what is happening in the Middle East and trying to find a resolution that is just not total conflagration. There are so many big issues out there that if we're not capable of stepping up, dusting ourselves off and getting back to work, even if we may have taken one to the chin, then we're not cut out for this business. And we have got to step up and do it because the American people are demanding it. The world situation is demanding it. And so now we have to move on. We've got to get a good speaker. And we've got a couple of ones that are just absolutely excellent candidates. I know if they take that helm, we will be well served.
Well, that's encouraging and it's positive, and I appreciate that. I'm sure that our listeners do. When I look at the conflagration, though, I see much of the conflagration in the nation's capital. And I mean, we've got a corrupt president, an impaired president, a man so compromised that he sold off half of the strategic petroleum reserves. He's in all too frequent communication with the People's Republic of China. He is ostensibly pro-Israel, but he is making moves, strategic moves that are pro-Arab, pro-Muslim. And by the way, nothing against Muslims, nothing against Arabs. I love everybody. But we have a phony and a half in the White House who's under the control of someone else, and we have to be honest about that. We have a foreign policy team that is capable of screwing up a vacant lot, and they have done so frequently over the course of their time in the Biden regime. This is not a time for any of us to be at ease or settled about our prospects here as we face so many crises. $3 trillion. I mean, I can go through this list, but what I can't go through is what have the Republicans done to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas, who has turned over the southern border to the cartels, the Mexican drug cartels. Not one Republican has even come up and said, let's subpoena him. And I'm talking about the Judiciary Committee. I'm talking about the Oversight Committee. God bless everything you guys are doing. The three investigating committees and the subcommittee, weaponization. But my God, all that's required here, you as an attorney, a distinguished attorney. No, this is simply a charge. It isn't a trial yet. That's for the Senate. You don't have to produce, a certain weight of evidence. You have to produce the obvious evidence, which is staring at all of us. The Republicans are not showering themselves here with glory.
Well, and Lou, I don't disagree with you, except for a couple of things.
Okay.
Everything that you have laid out there is exactly why the Democrats wanted to behead the Republican Party. That's why they did what they did. That is why they took out Kevin McCarthy. Whether you like him or not, we are now 3 weeks into chaos because we don't have a Speaker of the House. That is exactly what they intended to do when they voted with those 8 Republicans to do what they did with the motion to vacate.
Sure.
Now, as far as the impeachment, where I will say our jury, Lou, is the American public. We absolutely have to be able to show the case, or they're not going to take this up. And the Senate isn't going to take this up. Keep that in mind. What we show in terms of how badly these guys have done their job and how they have compromised the security of the United States of America, we are going to have to present that evidence in the House because the Senate is never going to take it up. The only people who are going to be able to expose this is us. Now, we have brought in Mayorkas. I don't know if you saw that hearing, but I ripped into him, yes. So did others. So we are attempting to do that. But again, we've been at a standstill for 3 weeks now.
And that public opinion, that court of public opinion, is all I can say is I understand the process. I understand the constitutional relationships and the importance of the Senate's role and why without the Senate, it doesn't go further. But this will be judged by history. It will be judged by just about 170 million voters in 2024. I don't see how the Republican Party gets to 2024 acting the way it has. We're now approaching the 11th month of the 118th Congress, and nothing of concrete measure has been accomplished, and that is a shame. And we need desperately something in straight order. We're talking with Representative Harriet Hageman, and we will be right back in one moment with her answers and views solely as we continue here on the Great America Show. We'll be right back. We're back now with Congresswoman Hageman, and I have to say, I've laid out what I see as the situation. It to me is dire. I think to the American people, at least most of them, they're facing runaway inflation. They were looking at 8% interest rates for mortgages, and there is very little that you're going to be able to rely upon as the opposition party in the way of the national media, which is itself politically corrupt, and tools of the establishment, the corporatist oligarchs who command our national. Principally, about 90% of the national media. So it seems to me that this is a matter of absolute urgency, crisis for the Republican Party to put something forward from each of those investigating committees forthwith. Your thoughts?
Lou, you are absolutely correct. And I'm going to tell you something and make a promise right now. when I have an opportunity to visit with folks tonight, I'm going to send your message loud and clear. And at every opportunity that I have in talking to my fellow Republicans, I'm going to explain that this is the message that we are getting on the street. This is the message that people in Wyoming, in Nebraska, Arizona, Nevada, Idaho, it doesn't matter where it is. This is exactly the message. This is the concern that all of our fellow Republicans have had. What is it that we are doing? What is it that we are doing for the American public? Well, here's a couple of things. We have passed 4 of the 12 appropriations bills, and they are sitting on the desk in the Senate. Those 4 bills fund approximately 70% of the discretionary spending in Congress. So what have we done? We've done that. Senate won't take them up. So that's the Democrat-controlled Senate. So when we talk about continuing resolutions and we talk about what we're going to do with funding the government in the appropriations bills, hopefully this week we're going to be taking up 2 more appropriations bills if we can get a speaker in place. 2 more next week. That gets us to 8 of the 12 that we will have done. But again, the Senate isn't doing their job. We are. And here's the thing about those bills that I want you to understand, Lou, that is really good. I'll just use the NDAA as an example, the National Defense Authorization Act. What we did, and it was Jim Banks and a few other people who understand very well, they went in and they stripped out every woke thing you can think of from the military. No more ESG, no more funding of traveling for abortions. All of the things that all of us, no more money for drag queen story hour. All of that stuff has been stripped out of these bills. These are good conservative bills that actually cut spending. And they are, again, the 4 of them are sitting on the desk in the Senate. So that's one of the things that we've done. We also have Jamie Comer on oversight is moving forward with getting more and more and more of these bank records out, demonstrating, we just got the bank records in the last couple of weeks, demonstrating that the Biden crime family was alive and well over the last 20 years. The corruption, the graft, the amount of money that was going to James Biden and then to Joe Biden and going to Hunter Biden and then to Joe Biden. We're putting all of this case together, and I will assure you that as we do move forward, we're going to be able to establish for the American public that, yes, the Bidens have been corrupt for decades, and we've got to take them out of power. The border crisis situation, that is coming to a head. We have H.R. 2 that we've already passed. It's the very best border security bill that has ever been passed out of Congress. That's sitting on the desk in the Senate-controlled, or in the Democrat-controlled Senate. So there are bills, there are things that we have been doing. This last thing that happened 3 weeks ago has kind of overshadowed that. But I can tell you there are many of us in the Republican conference that are working hard to address the issues that are important to the American public.
So, Congresswoman, as you are going through this, and I think, as always, your perspective, your analysis is 100%. I hope that the conference is listening to you, and I hope the conference can measure up to the quality, if you will, of your positions and your outlook. I don't know what happens from here. You talked about a number of those in the 9 who could run the conference, maybe Speaker of the House, the 3rd most important job in the country, and the American people will still, at the end of the day, not know who they are, how they got there, and it's going to be a very difficult moment. And I just want to, as we wrap up here with I always give you the last word here. How we go from here, how the Republican Party comes out of this stronger and wins in 2024.
Lou, one of the reasons I enjoy coming onto your program is because you are the voice of the American people, and you ask the questions that they want to ask, but they don't always have access to us to be able to do that. And that's what you've done today. You've asked me some very fundamental foundational questions that need to be responded to before we can get the confidence of the American public back, and that they would be willing to give us or at least allow us to retain the authority that we need to in the House of Representatives to stop this radical Biden agenda. So again, what I can tell you is that I think this entire process and what we're seeing isn't a good process. I don't disagree with you on that at all. What I can do is I'll tell you that I'm going to go and I'm going to talk to the people this afternoon and tonight and say, how do we make sure that we have the transparency and the accountability that the American public is demanding, to know that whomever we pick is actually the constitutionalist that we need at this moment in time, is actually the person who is going to pursue the conservative agenda that is going to save this country and frankly help us to address all of the incredible issues around the world. We need to have the transparency and accountability. I will commit to doing whatever I can to get that put in place.
Congresswoman, as always, we appreciate you being with us. We thank you for all that you're doing for this great country and the people of Wyoming, most certainly. Thanks so much for being with us. God bless you.
Thank you.